You are standing in a narrow stone room, where the last rays of the Athenian sunset seep through a small iron-barred window. The space is thick with the scent of damp mold and a haunting silence, broken only by the stifled gasps of sobbing disciples. Before you is an aged man, his physique rugged, yet his eyes radiate a strange tranquility. He holds the cup of hemlock in his hand, as gently as if it were merely a glass of wine at a warm dinner party. You want to reach out and stop this fateful act, but your hands only pass through the cold void of time. You realize you are but an invisible traveler, witnessing a moment that changes the entire course of human philosophical history. Socrates does not tremble. He looks death in the eye with a benevolent smile, viewing it as the ultimate liberation for the soul. The dark green liquid flows down his esophagus. You feel the chill beginning to spread from the great teacher's feet. A sense of helplessness envelops your mind as you watch his breath slow, while the world outside continues to spin in its schemes. This is the end of a man, yet the beginning of an eternal legend of pride and truth. Welcome. Tonight we explore the life of Socrates, a life that was essentially a symphony of questions. Let your mind relax completely in this quiet space, where all present pressures gradually fade away. Had we been born in his time, perhaps we would not have been able to achieve such extraordinary things in the way he faced them. While he had a profound impact on history, establishing ethics for humanity, we are still preoccupied with hunting for a few stray coins, or are simply lost in pointless arguments at some remote marketplace corner. Life is a series of choices. Tonight, you have chosen to be here, to join me in reclaiming the pieces of wisdom. So, before you drift off to sleep, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. Your support is like a small candle, warming our storytelling room amidst the cold winter night. I would love to know where you are listening from. Please leave a comment with your current time and location tonight. For example, if you are in Los Angeles at 10 p.m. or Tokyo at midnight, I will read every single one of your thoughts. Now, turn off the lights. Perhaps turn on a box fan or Marpac dome for some gentle white noise in the background. And let's begin the journey. Take a deep breath. Feel the softness of your pillows and blankets, and let my voice lead you back into the past. You find yourself standing in the middle of a small stone workshop in the region of Alopes, where the white dust of pentelic marble drifts in the early morning sun. The scent of damp earth mingles with the salty smell of sweat from craftsmen who are diligently chiseling away at rough blocks of stone. Before you is the young boy Socrates with a chubby face, his small hands attempting to control the heavy iron chisel according to his father's instructions. The sharp clanging of metal hitting stone creates a steady rhythm, soothing your mind. Sophroniscus, his father, is a gifted stone carver who taught him how to see the hidden forms within the lifeless boulders. You feel the conflict within Socrates' young soul as his thin hands are pushed beyond their strength. Some scholars still debate that records suggest the statues of the three Graces at the entrance of the Acropolis might have been the work of Socrates. However, the boy at this moment does not yet know that he will soon be carving ideas instead of stone. You touch the rough surface of the marble block, The cold and sharp sensation reminds you of the harsh reality of the working class. Socrates was not born into luxury. He grew up with calluses and an understanding of the value of labor. Nearby, his mother Phanerete is preparing her belongings to go help another laboring woman in the city. You see Socrates watching his mother's silhouette with deep admiration, silently absorbing the concept of assisting life to emerge from pain. A curious detail is that Socrates later called his philosophy the art of midwifery, inspired directly by his mother's work. He realized that, just as his mother helped newborns enter the world, he wanted to help ideas be born from the intellect. The loneliness of the young Socrates is clear as he pauses his chisel, casting his gaze toward the distance where sages are debating. He feels an invisible pull from within, a yearning to escape the heavy stones, to find the truth. You stand there, wanting to whisper in his ear that the future will record him as the wisest man, but time is a wall that separates you. You can only empathize with the uncertainty of a soul seeking its identity amidst the dust. The sunlight begins to fade, leaving long shadows cast upon the rugged ground of the workshop at the end of the day. Socrates wipes the sweat from his forehead with the hem of his coarse cloak, leaving white streaks of stone powder on his sun-bronzed, vibrant skin. The sun sets behind the workshop, leaving the marble blocks silent. But within Socrates, a different fire of curiosity is igniting, leading his steps away from physical forms toward distant theories of the heavens. You follow Socrates as he leaves his father's stone workshop, while white dust still clings to his coarse cloak. The golden sunlight of Athens pours down upon his shoulders, warming the path leading toward the magnificent temples on the heights. Some scholars still debate that records show Socrates was initially a student of Archelaus. He was once fascinated by observing the movements of celestial bodies and seeking the origin of the matter that composes the vast universe. You feel the restlessness in his footsteps as he stands before ancient parchment scrolls. The faint scent of cedarwood lingers in the academic spaces where sages discuss distant stars. But something deep within the heart of this young stone carver is beginning to silently crack. He realizes that knowing the distance to the moon does not help a person understand how to live a virtuous life. A surprising detail is that Socrates possessed an appearance considered ugly, with a flat nose and bulging eyes. In a society that worshipped physical beauty, this ruggedness became a great challenge to his confidence. You stand beside him, watching him see his reflection in the clear water of a public fountain. That face did not resemble the perfect statues he had once meticulously carved alongside his father in the workshop. The contradiction between his rugged exterior and his noble soul caused him to endure a profound loneliness. He wondered if truth could be hidden behind forms not favored by nature in a world of prejudice. Mainstream historical information confirms that Socrates executed a great pivot in human thought. He decided to leave the heavens and pull philosophy down to earth, focusing on matters of human ethics. You witness the moment he stops in the middle of a crowded street, sinking into an uncannily deep state of contemplation. Socrates could stand as still as a statue for hours, oblivious to the throngs of people and the noise of cargo wagons. You want to wake him, to ask about what he sees in that mysterious inner world. But you are only a ghost of time, quietly observing the sprouting of an ideology that changes the world. The sea breeze blowing from the port of Piraeus carries a saltiness, tossing the disheveled hair of the man standing in silence. The journey of self-discovery begins, replacing the blocks of stone and distant theories of the eternal universe. As questions about the universe gradually became small before the mysteries of the soul, Socrates did not expect that this fortitude would soon be tested not in a library, but amidst the bone-chilling cold of the distant battlefield of Potidaea. Imagine yourself standing in a foreign land, where snow covers the temporary camps of the Athenian army in a blanket of white. Winter winds from Thrace blow in, bringing a bone-chilling cold and the pungent scent of rusty iron armor. The clashing of swords and the neighing of horses echo through the thick fog, but what amazes you most is the silhouette of a man. Amidst the deep snow, Socrates stands as still as a stone statue he once carved in his father's old workshop. His feet are bare, stepping directly onto the freezing ice without trembling or seeking warmth from the nearby campfires. You shiver as you touch his thin cloak, feeling the bone-chilling cold surrounding that aging body. Some scholars still debate that records show this endurance was not a display of vanity, but a form of training. Socrates believed that mastering the body was the first step for the soul to achieve absolute freedom from material needs and the dominance of sensations. Mainstream historical information confirms that he participated in the Potidaea campaign in 432 BC as a hoplite infantryman. Though he had reached middle age, the stone carver still carried a heavy shield and a long spear upon his shoulders amidst the chaos of the battlefield. A surprising detail recorded is that during the chaos of the retreat, Socrates bravely saved the life of the young nobleman Alcibiades. Instead of competing for the rewards of glory, he quietly yielded all noble titles to his ambitious and proud young friend. You see him smiling amidst the screams of the battlefield, a benevolent smile for those preoccupied with seeking vain glory and blood. The loneliness of the old soldier at this moment does not stem from a lack of companions, but from the vast difference in his profound worldview. While others feared death, Socrates was busy contemplating what the true nature of courage is within the human heart. He wondered what the meaning of charging at an enemy was if a person could not conquer the fear and desire within themselves. You want to tell him that these thoughts would become the foundation of Western ethics, but the sound of the trumpet cut short that train of thought. Socrates withdrew his distant gaze, gripped his shield firmly, and stepped further into the shadows of the Peloponnesian War, fraught with political intrigue. As night falls, you sit beside him by the dying fire, looking at his hands calloused from stone carving, and now deeply scarred from life and death battles. Socrates gazes into the flames. His bulging eyes reflect the flickering light, evoking a vast sorrow for the fate of Athens. Returning from the smoke of war with bare feet deeply scarred, the old soldier Socrates faced another battle in his mind when the prophecy from the Temple of Delphi echoed, shaking every belief he had ever held. You are walking with Socrates through the dusty streets of Athens after the war has temporarily subsided. The air is thick with the scent of burning wood blended with the saltiness from the seaport. You see him stop by a fountain, his feet still bearing the calluses from long marches. A childhood friend named Chaerephon rushes over with a message from the ancient temple of Delphi. His face is flushed, his breath gasping with excitement. You feel the intense shock radiating from the trembling voice of this passionate friend. The oracle from the priestess Pythia echoed amidst the silent smoke of Apollo's temple. No one is wiser than Socrates. You see the astonishment clear on his face, not pride, but a deep and uneasy confusion. He looks down at the rough hands of a stonemason, and then looks up at the high sky, whispering that he knows nothing at all. This paradox becomes a burden weighing on his shoulders that you seem to feel as the evening shadows gradually fall. Some scholars still debate that records show the story of the oracle might be a literary metaphor rather than a historical event. However, for Socrates, this was a sacred command, forcing him to embark on a journey to verify the truth. You follow him as he seeks out the most renowned experts, talented politicians and poets. The scent of ink, mixed with old parchment, fills the room as he begins his uncompromising interrogations to find the truly wise person. Every expert he meets seems to understand many things, but under Socrates' piercing gaze, their knowledge shatters. You feel the tension in the space as their pride gradually turns into disappointment and smoldering anger. A strange detail is that Socrates believed he was performing a divine duty by proving that humans do not understand what they say. He spent all day in the square, neglecting his family, just to pursue the answer to Apollo's riddle. You see him sitting quietly on a stone bench, the sun setting behind the Parthenon, as he realizes the true meaning of the oracle. He is the wisest because he is the only one who dares to admit his shortcomings, while others are blinded by their confidence. This realization does not bring peace, but a sense of heavy responsibility toward every citizen of the city. You stand watching him sigh, the chilly wind rustling his thin cloak, as he prepares for a life of constant questioning. With the burden of the oracle on his shoulders, Socrates can no longer sit still in contemplation. He begins to step out into the vibrant Agora, where dialogues will become the arena for him to strip away all the falsehoods of knowledge. You find yourself sitting on cool stone steps under the portico of the vibrant Agora square. The scent of salted olives mingles with the warm, aromatic aroma of toasted bread, drifting through the golden afternoon sunlight. Socrates stands in the middle of a group of young noblemen, his bare feet gripping the dusty ground. His eyes sparkle with curiosity as he faces a politician boasting of his own knowledge. Mainstream historical information reveals that he frequently used the Elenchus method to probe the very core of a matter. He provided no answers, only posing a series of challenging questions to his opponent. You watch as he peels away layers of his opponent's false beliefs, much like the way he once carved stone. Concepts of justice or courage begin to waver and grow hazy under his scrutiny. Some scholars still debate that records show this method was not intended to humiliate opponents. In truth, Socrates sought to purify their souls of the blind prejudices hindering intellectual growth. A curious detail is that Socrates absolutely never charged for his teaching, despite living in extreme poverty. This was in stark contrast to the sophists of the time, who always demanded large sums of money. You sense a weariness hidden behind his gentle smile as he looks down at his threadbare cloak. He accepted material deprivation to keep his soul unburdened by profit. The murmurs from the surrounding crowd grow louder as the powerful politician falls into silence. Confusion is clear on the flushed face of the man who had always believed he understood all worldly knowledge. Socrates does not appear triumphant. He only sighs softly and brushes his hand through his disheveled, silvery gray beard. You see in those bulging eyes a faint sadness for not yet finding a true companion. The evening wind blows through his thinning hair, bringing a sense of stillness to the heart of the noisy city. You want to step closer to share the burden of knowledge, but the shadows of the past hold your footsteps back. These dialogues are silently sowing the seeds for hidden enemies in the shadows of democracy. Socrates continues his tireless midwifery of new ideas, regardless of the dangers beginning to manifest before him. You watch him quietly step away from the crowd as the sunset begins to stain the marble pillars red. His presence at the Agora is not just a habit, but the very breath of a truly free soul. In the shade of the Agora, as the powerful are silenced by his sharp questions, you suddenly see Socrates pause, as if listening to an invisible voice, guiding him toward his most exceptional students. You sit in a dark corner of the banquet hall, where the scent of rich red wine mingles with the faint fragrance of jasmine from the garden behind. Flickering peanut oil lamps cast long shadows upon the rough stone walls, creating a mystical and absolute silence. Before you, Socrates sits cross-legged on a woolen rug, his eyes half closed as if listening to a sound from some distant realm. Stillness envelops him, separating him from the bustling laughter of the guests surrounding him. You feel a slight vibration in the air when he suddenly raises his hand, signaling the young friends around him to keep silent. That is the moment the Daimonion, the mysterious inner voice, whispers a silent warning into his ear. Mainstream historical information confirms that Socrates always followed this inner sign, a spiritual phenomenon that appeared only to prevent wrongdoing. He considered it a sacred gift, a moral compass that helped protect his soul from error. Some scholars still debate that records show the Daimonian voice was, in fact, an extreme sensitivity of the moral instinct within the mind. However, to the listeners of that time, it was a mystery that made the teacher appear both venerable and terrifying. Your gaze turns toward Plato, the young man with a wise face, who is intently recording every word of his teacher onto parchment scrolls. You see both adoration and anxiety in Plato's eyes, as if he is trying to hold tightly onto a fading light. Nearby is Alcibiades, the radiant and ambitious student, looking at Socrates with a conflict between personal pride and submission to the truth. You touch the luxurious silk of Alcibiades' cloak, feeling the contrast with Socrates' coarse, worn garment. A curious detail is that Socrates once stood motionless for an entire night on a battlefield just to listen to this inner voice guiding him. That steadfastness left his students amazed and feeling small before the spiritual strength of their teacher. You realize the immense loneliness of Socrates as he carries warnings that no one else can hear or empathize with. He smiles at Plato, a smile containing the tenderness of one who foresees the political storms waiting ahead. The sound of the box fan from reality seems to synchronize with the steady breathing of the students immersed in the ancient flow of knowledge. You feel your heart sink, sensing the magical connection between souls diligently searching for the truth. Amidst the warm teachings and the deep bond between teacher and students, the shadows of politics begin to fall over Athens, forcing Socrates to face a choice of life and death when confronting the brutality of the 30 Tyrants. You find yourself standing in the middle of a devastated and exhausted Athens following its bitter defeat to the Spartan army. The air here is thick with the scent of ashes, mingled with the humiliation of a great empire that has just collapsed. The Council of 30 Tyrants has just been established, turning the City of Freedom into a terrifying giant prison. The sound of hobnailed boots of Spartan soldiers echoes through the ancient streets whenever late night falls. Some scholars still debate that records show Socrates had close ties with leaders such as Critias. This man was once a former student, but later became extremely brutal. However, you see him standing quietly in the shadows of the government building, facing a brutal command. The tyrants demanded that he, along with 4 others, go to arrest Leon of Salamis for execution. Leon was an honest citizen, but the tyrants wanted to seize his assets by murdering him. You feel the rapid heartbeat and the extreme tension within Socrates at this moment. The other 4 men tremblingly accepted the order and hurried away in extreme fear of the tyrant's power. Only Socrates remained standing there, his bulging eyes staring straight into the boundless void, filled with contemplation. A surprising detail is that Socrates did not utter any harsh words of resistance or call for a widespread rebellion. He simply turned his back and quietly walked straight to his small, humble house. This resolute act of silence carried more weight than 10,000 words, directly challenging the power of the bloodthirsty men. You walk beside him, feeling the loneliness, yet the pride of a truly free soul. The scent of the chilly night air fills your lungs, bringing a clear sense of the fragility of life. Socrates fully understood that he could very well be executed early the next morning. He chose to endure cruel injustice rather than become a part of a loathsome criminal machine. You see him sit down on a rough wooden bed, calmly facing all impending events. Fortunately, the rule of the 30 Tyrants collapsed much sooner than everyone had initially expected. This miraculously saved Socrates' life before the murderers could carry out their actions. But the deep rift between him and the new rulers of the democracy continued to silently form. The ghosts of the past began to haunt the freedom and the life of the great teacher. You stand observing him in the dim shadows of the room, feeling an uncannily deep empathy. Socrates did not need a crown to be a king within his own world of integrity. Although the storm of the tyrant shads passed, the latent conflicts between Socrates and the city he loved still simmered silently, eventually leading to the day he would have to stand before 501 judges in a fateful trial. You are standing in the middle of a noisy crowd at the Heliaea court, where the intense Athenian sun mingles with the smell of road dust and salty sweat. Tension blankets the space as hundreds of eyes fixate on that elderly man. 3 men, Meletus, Anytus, and Lycon, stand there accusing Socrates of not worshiping the gods and corrupting the youth with strange questions. You feel injustice seeping through every malicious accusation amidst a terrifying murmur of resentment. Before you is a jury of 501 Athenian citizens, those who hold the philosopher's fate with small pottery shards used for voting. Sunlight pierces through the canopy, shining directly onto Socrates' face, highlighting his silver beard and wise, bulging eyes. Some scholars still debate that records show a vast difference between Plato's and Xenophon's accounts of this defense. While Plato emphasizes erudition, Xenophon portrays a proud Socrates challenging the judges. You see him standing tall, neither shedding tears nor bringing forth his family to beg for pity, as others typically do. His voice resonates deep and warm, asserting that he is not a master of rhetoric, but merely one who speaks the truth. Mainstream historical records confirm that Socrates was found guilty by a relatively small margin, a difference of only about 30 to 60 votes. You want to scream to change that outcome, but your hands are but a misty smoke. A strange detail is that when proposing an alternative punishment, Socrates shook the court with an incredibly proud and unexpected request. He proposed that the city provide him with free meals at the Prytaneum, an honor reserved for Olympic victors. This pride ignited the jury's anger, causing the votes for the death penalty to be higher than the initial votes for conviction. You see him smiling gently, as if he had known the script of his life long ago. You stand beside him, feeling the ultimate loneliness of a great man turned away and sentenced to death by the very city he loved most. Socrates does not resent. He accepts the verdict of the law with an indomitable tranquility. The trial concludes as the evening shadows fall upon the marble columns, carrying the chill of an ending that is drawing very near to us. Socrates is led away in chains, his footsteps still steady upon the ground, amidst his grieving students. The murmurs of the trial gradually fade behind him, giving way to the cold silence of chains in the dungeon, where Socrates' final nights will be the most eloquent testament to his absolute loyalty to the law. You sit on the cold and moldy stone floor of the prison cell, where the air is thick with the scent of early mist and decay. The first gray rays of light seep through the narrow iron bars high above, casting a glow upon the patches of green moss clinging to the walls. Beside you, Socrates is still immersed in an uncannily deep and serene sleep, his breathing steady despite the iron chains locked tightly around his ankles. You feel the roughness of the stone walls and the bone-chilling cold enveloping everything. Suddenly, the heavy wooden door groans open. Crito, the wealthy and devoted friend, enters with a face deeply etched with despair. He carries a large bag of gold and an escape plan that has been meticulously prepared. "The sacred ship from Delos is nearly docking at Athens, Socrates," Crito whispers urgently, his voice trembling with hope, mingled with ultimate fear. "The guards have been bribed. The ship bound for Thessaly is waiting to take you away from here." Information from Grocopedia. Socrates confirms that a ritual delay occurred because the city was waiting for the ship to return from the island of Delos. No execution could be carried out until then, which granted him an additional 30 days. Some scholars still debate that records show the dialogue in the prison may be fictional, created by Plato to illustrate loyalty. These words represent the pinnacle of moral and philosophical consistency. You observe Socrates slowly sitting up, his eyes clear and without a trace of fear, even as the shadow of death looms close. He gently pushes Crito's hand and the bag of gold coins out of his sight. A surprising detail recorded in the work Crito is that Socrates imagined the laws of Athens standing before him. They questioned him about his duty to the city that had protected and nurtured him throughout his life. "If I break the law to save my life, I would destroy the very foundation of justice that I have taught for decades," he explains softly. You feel a lump in your throat at this relentless steadfastness. The coldness of the dungeon seems to vanish as his wisdom shines through, turning the thick stone walls into thin paper. He chooses to preserve the integrity of the soul rather than prolong the breath of a physical body. Outside, the sounds of Athens waking up, the cries of merchants and the braying of donkeys remind him of the beautiful world he is about to leave. He remains completely motionless, his mind seemingly already belonging to another eternal realm. You reach out to touch the freezing chain, feeling the weight of a decision that will resonate through many centuries to come. His freedom lies precisely in the refusal to flee his fate, to protect the truth. Crito bows his head in silence, tears falling onto the dusty floor, acknowledging that he cannot save a man who has voluntarily sacrificed himself. The morning sunlight begins to grow brilliant, signaling that the final day has truly arrived. As the final dawn light shines through the bars, Socrates' refusal to flee closes all earthly hopes, preparing for the moment he lifts the cup of hemlock to complete the final healing ritual of his life. You stand quietly in a dark corner of the prison cell, where the day's final rays are fading upon the rough marble slabs. The air is thick with the scent of damp mist and a suffocating silence, broken only by the sighs of the collapsing disciples. Socrates sits on the edge of the wooden bed. His feet still bear the marks of scratches from the shackles that were just removed. You feel an extraordinary tranquility radiating from him, a wave of warm energy amidst the space that is gradually turning cold. The jailer enters with the cup of hemlock in hand, his face clearly showing guilt and deep respect. You see Socrates take the cup with hands that do not tremble, as gently as if he were preparing to drink a fine wine. He asks the jailer if it is possible to pour a little of the potion out as a libation to the gods, according to traditional ritual. Upon learning that the amount is only enough for one draft, he smiles benevolently and accepts this harsh judgment. You witness him lifting the cup to his lips and drinking it all in a single gulp without the slightest hesitation or resentment. The pungent, acrid scent of the lethal herb seems to permeate the air, making your heart tighten in helplessness. Mainstream historical information confirms that Socrates followed the instructions, walking around the room until his legs began to feel heavy. You walk beside him, feeling each slow step of a great man performing his final journey. The coldness begins from his feet, gradually spreading up to his calves and thighs as he lies down on the simple bed. You reach out, wanting to touch his threadbare cloak, but the shadow of death has begun to separate the two worlds. Some scholars still debate that records show his final words carry a profoundly mysterious meaning. Socrates slightly pulls the shroud over his face, whispering to Crito that they owe a rooster to the god Asclepius. The curious detail is that Asclepius is the god of healing, and Socrates viewed death as a liberation for the soul. He regarded life as a long illness, and this departure was the ultimate healing medicine. You see his body gradually become completely motionless, while a serene smile still lingers on his pale lips. The soul of the great teacher has left its rugged physical form, leaving a vast void in the heart of Athens. Silence blankets the dungeon, save for the muffled sobs of the students surrounding their teacher's body. You feel a deep sorrow, yet also a full sense of admiration for a pride that could not be conquered. Moonlight begins to seep through the iron bars, illuminating the calm face of the man who changed human thought. Socrates' life closes, but his questions will forever echo in each of our minds. Now, as the image of the dark dungeon fades in your mind, you feel the warmth of the blanket enveloping you. The sound of ancient Athenian winds gradually dissipates, giving way to the steady and soothing sound of the box fan in your current room. You have walked with Socrates through dusty paths, from his father's stone workshop to the frozen, snow-covered battlefields. We have witnessed the steadfastness of a soul, always yearning to seek the truth amidst a world full of prejudices. Socrates did not write a single line, yet his presence tonight has reminded you of the value of understanding yourself. An unexamined life is not worth living, and wisdom begins with knowing that you know nothing. Let those thoughts gently drift away, like wandering clouds in your own quiet night sky. All the worries and exhaustion of the long day are gradually vanishing, leaving behind a space of absolute peace and relaxation. Feel your breath slowing down, becoming steadier and deeper, like the rhythm of time soothing a tired soul. You are safe in this private space, where the wisdom of the past becomes a foundation for a good night's sleep. The candle of tonight's story has burned out, yet its light still warms your soul before you sink into a deep slumber. Relax every muscle, letting your mind drift into the land of the most beautiful and peaceful dreams. I wish you a very deep, very peaceful sleep, and may you wake up with a heart full of wisdom tomorrow morning. Good night, my companion, through the pages of ancient history.